Hi, this is Hoppo, and this is the OhioRAAM Show.
And thank you, Chris Hopkinson, better known to ultra race fans and racers around the world as Hoppo, coming to us from Yorkshire, England. And we'll be seeing Hoppo this year in a part of a four-person team in the race across the West. And we'll have him on the show along with his teammates just a little later. The OhioRAAM Show is brought to you by the wonderful folks who staff the time stations at Oxford, Ohio, time stations 41, and Blanchester, Ohio, time stations 42, where we are open 24 hours a day during the time the race is passing our time stations. We have 24-hour food, 24-hour fuel, and most important, 24-hour fans while you're there. It's a great place to come and see the race if you live anywhere in the Midwest, the tri-state area, Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio. Sometimes people come from further distances because there's always people there to explain to you what is going on, keep you updated on the latest data on the race. And if you're new to ultra cycling or new to the race across America, there'll be people there who can explain to you the race, how it works, how the rules function, and bring you on board as a fan. This year, the time stations will be open from June the 21st, Tuesday, June the 21st, to Saturday, June the 25th, which is the time the racers will be passing through our time stations in Ohio. The race starts on the 14th of June in Oceanside, California. The solo riders start at that date on the 18th of June. The teams start, and they all are catching up. The teams are catching up to the solo riders about the time they get to Ohio. So we would invite you there. However, we do want to tell you that there are other time stations that are staffed across the nation, and we have a list that we want to show you, and take a look at this for just a moment. And we have an important event happening this year. Wasn't planned. It's just one of those coincidences. Here in Ohio, we have an event known as the Great Ohio Bicycle Adventure that generally has about 3,000 riders. It's a multi-day tour, and it always happens the same time as the race across America, which has caused us some difficulty in getting staffers for our stations. But this year, quite by accident, the Great Ohio Bicycle Adventure is going to be taking a rest day on June the 21st, on Tuesday, June the 21st, in Oxford, Ohio, the day that we open our time station. And we'll have more to say about that later, but I know the people at Oxford are planning for quite an event surrounding the convergence of these two bicycling adventures, and we will be looking forward to see what that's all about. As we've said, this is India month on the OhioRAAM Show, and we're very happy to go now to India to talk to Divya Tate, who has had an awful lot to do with the growth of ultra cycling over the last 6 or 7 years in that great nation. So I'm going to leave the cold environment here in Ohio where it's snowing and blowing and go to a little warmer climate in India. And we're going over to Pune, India with Divya Tate and Chai. Divya is a very important person when it comes to ultra cycling, and we're very glad to have you with us. How are you doing there, Divya, today?
I'm good. Thank you, Lee, for having me on the show.
Oh, it's great to have you here. I've been thinking about this for a long time. And will you introduce your friend sitting next to you there?
This is Chai, Chaitanya Velhal, who also lives in Pune. He's qualified for RAM twice.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, we're glad to have you. And Chai, we met last year or this past summer in Blanchester, Ohio, when you were crewing for Joan Deichmann. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that's right. And you did ask me a couple of questions, I believe.
And you were fooling around trying to get Joan's indexer working, I think, as I recall.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was it.
Well, Divya, it's so nice to have you here. Who you have been such an important figure in ultra racing in India and in the race across America here in the United States as well. Tell me a little about yourself, your family, your background. What do you do besides ride a bicycle or organize bike races?
So I'm a single mom. I have two grown-up sons, and I've done a lot of different things professionally. I trained as an architect. I practiced for about 8 or 10 years as an architect before leaving architecture. I've done mosaic work. I write. I've been a camp mom in a riding school, and throughout all this, I've been cycling, trekking, camping, whatever takes me outdoors.
And I noticed, did I see something recently? You've done some mountaineering, backpacking, that sort of thing as well.
Oh yeah, I love backpacking, trekking through the mountains, and yeah, I've traveled a lot all over India and outside.
Well, how did you get into cycling, Divya?
I got into cycling when I moved to Pune about 23 or 24 years back. I grew up, most of my, teens were spent in Bombay. And over there, I didn't used to cycle. I didn't have access to the outdoors like I did when I moved to Pune. Pune was a much smaller town when I moved in here. And I think within the first month of moving in here, I bought myself a cycle. 25 years back, the cycles that were available in India were, even up till 8 years back, we didn't have aluminum bikes in India. So what I had was like a heavy roadster kind of bike. And I started using that to just tour around the countryside. I used it for commuting. It was fun. It was good fun just to be able to cycle around with no sort of agenda. And so I did that kind of cycling for a really long time. And about 8 years back, things started to change. So for the largest part of my time that I was riding, cycling was not an activity that people in my socio-economic in India used to indulge in. It was kind of looked down upon. The people who biked in India were the ones who had no choice, no economic choice, but to ride a cycle because they couldn't afford a motorized vehicle. And I was one of the few people who actually thought to do it for fun. Then about 8 years back, things started to change when aluminum bikes started to be sold in India. Imported bicycle companies from, all the bicycle companies available in the rest of the world started to be sold over here. And since then, the activity has changed for me and for the rest of the country.
You got the newer bikes. You could see a lot more possibility with them, and that kind of propelled you into this ultra cycling, did it?
Yeah, about 6 years back almost was somebody conducted the very first 200-kilometer brevet in India. And by then, I had been doing touring, and I had a mountain bike when I saw this post going up about a 200K brevet. And I just signed up for it because I just thought, let me see, what it feels like to do 200 kilometers in a day. And the other reason that I signed up was because the conversation around that brevet was a little macho. It was about, let's separate the men from the boys kind of talk.
Yeah.
That's not cool.
This does not sound unfamiliar, and I have to say, for my American friends who have yet to come up into the 20th century, much less the 21st century, 200 kilometers is 120 miles. One of these days, we may catch up with you scientifically and go metric, but we just hang back. We just hang back. We won't do it.
Yep.
I'm sorry to divert, but I just have to throw that little irritant in from time to time. It just bugs me no end.
Yeah. So there was this whole macho thing going on, and I was like, that is not cool. And there were no other women signed up for the ride. So I just thought, okay, I've got to go out there and just at least be that one token woman who shows them that this is not about men and boys. So that's how I started. That's how I got drawn into doing brevets. Yeah.
Okay, so a brevet is a self-supported as a rule, is it not?
Yeah,
it's self-supported, and you have various checkpoints you have to check in with along the route, and you started in with that. And then when did you do Paris-Brest Paris? When did that fall into place?
So that brevet was early in 2010, the first one. And then we slowly got drawn into, thinking about longer distance brevets. And that was the first time that I heard about Paris-Brest. And, I just used to have fun on my bike. I never trained until that point. And the first.
Wait a minute. You just had fun on a bike? What kind of person is this?
Right.
I got to stop interrupting you. You just go ahead.
Yeah. So I met with a bunch of people who were talking about training, and they were all very fit young men. And I, hung out on the fringe of the group thinking, okay, this is not for me. I can't do this. And a few weeks later, I met with somebody who had done PBP, a PBP ancien, as the French like to call it.
Yeah, Paris-Brest Paris.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, because it's French. The people who've done PBP are called anciens. Which
I did not know that.
Yeah. So I met a PBP, somebody who'd finished PBP, and he was an Australian guy in his 50s with a nice beer belly. And, I looked at him and I thought, okay, if he can do it, we have a chance. It looks maybe like we can. So that's how I sort of thought, okay, let me just, see how this goes, and started doing the rides. And 2011, PBP 2011, I was the first woman from India to qualify and attempt to do PBP. I didn't finish. So it was a great experience, though. It was great to meet that whole world of randonneering. It's a wonderful international event. And a lot of the people that I met at PBP in 2011, I have continued to meet them every year at RAM. So it's a nice little, it was good to become a part of that big community.
Well, as we said before we went on the air here, the ultracycling community is not extremely large, but it is a worldwide community, and it is very tight-knit, as I found out a couple of weeks ago when I had a little episode in the hospital, and I started hearing from my friends all over the world, and it made me realize how important a community it is.
Yeah. It's good to be a part of this community.
So, how did you wind up working on Race Across America team, and when did that start?
So one of my fellow participants at PBP in 2011 was a cyclist called Samim Rizvi. And Samim has attempted RAM that twice before, in 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
And so I connected with him at PBP. And for his attempt in 2012, he asked me if I would crew for him. So that's how I came to RAM the first time. That was in June 2012. And yeah, Samim didn't finish RAM that year, but so I didn't actually see the whole route. But I was hooked onto a race across America. After that, subsequently, I sort of realized that the logistics and the whole management of anyone's attempt to do RAM, it's a huge project. So I came back in Feb 2013 to attend the crew seminar that is conducted by Fred and Rick. And after that, I've come back, every year to crew and officiate for RAM.
Yeah, I noticed in your CV here that you actually you crewed for the race across the West and then went back and crewed. How did that work that year?
That was nuts. I did 8,000 kilometers of driving up and down the country.
Well, we had Jim Harms on, who's director of officials for the Race Across America, a couple of weeks back. And he's out looking for officials. I'll put the word out again for that. If you go back and look for that show, you'll see a link to his website that he just put up. If you, Diva, for officials or for crew, I always say if you want to see the country 15 miles an hour, not get any showers, and be in a car for 10, 12 days with other people who haven't had showers, crewing may be for you.
Right. Yeah.
But so you crewed every year since then.
Yes.
And this last year, it's interesting that you've done that, but I've just never
I know.
been around when you've been around.
When you sent the video clip of Chai, I'm like, this is just not fair. I've gone through that 4 times. It's just not
Well,
fair.
that happens. There's people that it's just the breaks of the game. There was a time when I would spend 36 hours in a row tracking racers and doing interviews and things like that. But life's presented me with a couple challenges, and I have to cut back a little bit. But I still love to do it. But it's not uncommon that you're somebody you really want to see, but you miss them somehow, and it's just life. But yeah. So now. A couple weeks ago, I had Juliana Buring on the show, and I understand you're going to be her crew chief this coming year?
I'm going to be her crew in 2016. I didn't know.
Maybe you haven't heard.
No, I haven't.
maybe
find out.
Maybe she's promoted you, and you have. I've known that to happen before.
Yeah, I need to know a little bit more about this from her.
Well, of all the remarkable women I've had on the show, she comes near the top. When if you go back a few weeks and see her show, she is incredible.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to meeting her, and I'm so proud of all her achievements already. I was just going over her website with Chai and reading all her records, and I'm just a little bit in love with her already.
She told about crossing the Turkish-Greek, I believe, border, and the guard there wanted to marry her, and I said, "Well, I could understand that." Yeah, she's a wonderful woman. Well, we appreciate what you're doing, and maybe this year, people always say, "Well, I hope to see you." And when I first started doing the show, I promised everybody, "Well, I'll be around and I'll be sure to see you." I find out that's a promise I can't keep. It's just the race across America is just so harem scarum, and people trying to catch odd naps here and there. It's just impossible.
And
But well, we appreciate what you do. Go ahead.
it's interesting that in all the times that I've gone down the route, there are still some, I've done it 4 times now. There are still some patches that I can't recollect because I might have always done them in the night or when I'm sleeping or off duty. So there are still some patches that I don't recollect very well. And there's also Monument Valley. I have gone through Monument Valley at different times of the day every time that I've come there, and it's beautiful every time. The in 2015 when I went through Monument Valley, I almost thought, okay, oh God, Monument Valley again. But and we went through it in the night, and then we decided to sleep in the middle of Monument Valley. And I woke up in the morning with the sun rising on those rocks, and I was like, wow, it's good to be here. Yeah.
I love the way you say that, Monument Valley again. How boring. Okay, well, now I want to get to India and what's been going on there, because I think you're behind most of it. Don't you think, Chai, that we have her to thank for most of what's happening in India these days as far as ultracycling goes?
Yeah, you do.
So you, my papers all got unshuffled here. Tell me about what you've started doing there. First of all, with is it Inspire India?
That's for me? Yeah.
Yes.
Um, yeah. So I think after a couple of times of coming for the Race Across America, I was able to identify some of the things that we need to do here in India to be able to see participants actually able to complete RAM. And one of the things was that we need to have more ultracycle races here, that we need to have a larger base of ultra cyclists who are doing, ultra races on a regular basis as a part of their training and preparation to be able to come for RAM. And a successful finish at RAM was linked with actually what we do over here. So by this time, since 2011, I took over the ODAX organization in India. So I have, built up a large sort of skill set of being able to organize and oversee long distance rides. Of course, the rules are completely different. But so that was when I got in touch with Fred and asked him if I could conduct a RAM qualifier here. And in 2014, February of 2014 was when I conducted the first. 14. Feb 2014, I conducted the first RAM qualifier called the Deccan Cliffhanger, which is a 400-mile race from Pune to Goa.
And you just had that a few weeks back, did you not?
Yes, that's right. That was the 3rd edition. So from the first one to now, the event has really grown, and it's a nascent cycling community in India, in that ultra cycling is really, really new. So by doing my races, I had to do a whole lot of other sort of almost like ecosystem development or education work around ultra cycling, getting people to understand what is meant by crewing, why come out and volunteer and why come out and crew. And I conduct crew seminars over here for the racers and the crew for my cliffhanger race, in which we go through the whole process of what is expected out of them. And now in 3 editions, I can really see how much progress we've made as a community over here. Like there's a small community that's built up around my race here, which it's great to see that. And so we've got a lot of people who've been engaged in every single edition of the Deccan Cliffhanger, either as crew and official or racers. And a lot of the people who come out as crew and officials in the first couple of years have converted to racers this year. So Chai, in fact, also in the first Deccan Cliffhanger, he was a crew for one of the solo racers. And after that, he has done solo Deccan Cliffhanger twice. in the second edition, he won the race, and in the third edition, he came second place.
Well, very good, and I think that's a wonderful work. I believe early on to get qualified, I think didn't someone have to set up a special event over there so they could get qualified without having to travel to Europe or something like that, as I recall a number of years ago. But it's really wonderful work what you're doing. Now, what I'll do, Divya, is on the show notes, which will appear on the website right below the video, I will put a link to your Inspire India and some other information. And also, you have a wonderful YouTube video about you that I was watching earlier. And that was done by some group, was it? I didn't gather who did that. Apparently, it's a series of videos that has been done.
Yes, this was done by LMB Productions.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I will have a link also to that YouTube video. That was quite well done and very nice. And you can see those, like I say, if you're watching the show on the show website, OhioRAAMshow.com, you'll see the link right below the video. If you happen to be watching on YouTube, or if you're watching on one of the several places that embed the show on their website, you would have to go to OhioRAAMshow.com. You'll see the link there at the end of the show, and find links to those to that website and to Divya's video. So 2016, you're going to be on Julie Buering's crew in some capacity, which is yet to be discovered. As she mentioned, I may have misspoken there. She mentioned you, I know, and in fact, she was the one who urged me to pursue what I was already thinking about and get you on the show. And so, what other plans have you got in the works for India at this time, Divya, that we can look for in the future? I know that when the cliffhanger was running, I was watching it on the internet as I could, that weekend regularly. It was quite interesting to follow. Yeah. So what else you got coming?
So I think, to be able to, like I said, we need to create a strong base for ultra cyclists in India. And that's going to take a whole bunch of events that racers over here, like at this moment, if Deccan Cliffhanger is kind of one of the few races that takes place, say, for example, Chai won the race last year, and he's interested in coming and doing Race Across America as a solo racer. But within India, we need to have a bunch of events that gives racers like him an opportunity to hone their skills, to train, to understand what it takes to be able to do longer races, because Deccan Cliffhanger is only 400 miles. It doesn't really tell you much about what you're going to expect to have to undergo during RAM itself. So Inspire India, I have set up 2 more long races, which should be able to give ultra racers here in India a good chance to test themselves before they go out and do RAM. One of them is the coast race, which would be tracing the peninsula of India. And the other one is a K2K, which is from the southernmost tip of India to, one of the highest mountain passes in the end. Roads permitting, of course. The roads have to be in good condition to allow us to run these races. So that's my plan for now, and maybe, set up a slightly longer RAM qualifier as well. And of course, I plan to continue coming for the Race Across America as a crew or official, and working with the community over here, with racers over here who are interested in going there. So last year when Chai was planning to race for RAM, I told him that you need to come out there and you need to see the race as a crew member. You need to see what a racer goes through. You need to see the terrain, the challenges. So I put him in touch with Joan, and it worked out really well for everyone, actually.
And Joan did really, really well this year, didn't she?
She did. She was amazing.
As if I recall correctly, I saw her last year and this year both, and I think she was about 14 hours ahead of herself over the previous year. No, she was really moving along. Well, we wish you well. And of course, another part of that picture, Divya, is not only to build up a base among riders, but to build up an awareness among Indians of the sport. And you've been getting some good news coverage. We here at OhioRAAM, we watch the newspapers for anything related to Race Across America or ultra cycling all the time. And it seems like you've been having a news article. I said there was something in the Times of India that mentioned one of the Mahajan brothers just a few days ago.
Yes.
And that's kind of important. And maybe you're further ahead in that area than we are here in the United States, because it's so hard for us to get anything other than just some local newspaper mention here. So that's great.
Yeah,
that's a great job you're doing there.
Yeah, thank you. It was part of, I think one of the challenges in India with cycling is that it's a very, very nascent sport in all forms, not just ultra cycling, but all kinds of cycling here. It's really nascent. We don't have, much in the way of mechanics. We don't have people who know how to do the mechanics of all the high-end bikes that are sold over here already. Coaching is another resource that we need to develop. And one of the other things that I realized early on is cricket as a sport really overwhelms everything in India. It, the government, the public attention, everything just funnels towards cricket. And we really have to work hard to bring cycling into a public domain where people actually even, know anything about it. So I think that was part of the reason why I make it a point to tell people around me in my community that just go out there and, just put something out there, get yourself talked about, get yourself written about, because that brings it into the public domain there.
Exactly. And the way things are going, I think you're going to soon have more people in India knowing about ultra cycling than here in the United States or maybe RAM. So you're doing a really great job. Well, Chai, we've kind of bypassed you there, but we've said before the show, I want to make arrangements to get you on the show here. We're going to have, it turns out, a kind of all India month with the Mahajan brothers on now, Divya, and if we get you and a couple other people, why we're gonna be we might become the India RAM show instead of the OhioRAAM show, but that'd be okay too. I think it's wonderful what's happening there, and we wish you. Is things turning out good for you there, Chai? As far as 2016, does it look like it's going to be a go?
Well, I was kind of planning to do it in 2017.
Oh, okay.
That's the target that I've set myself for, because I need to raise the funds for it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I've been talking with my coaches as well, and he's saying that a lot more preparation has to go in for that to reach the stage where I can finish RAM in a really comfortable manner, rather than just go there and just struggle across the line.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
So 17 is the target. Yeah.
Well, we'll be watching for you, and we'll try to get you on the show here sometime later. And Divya, I want to thank you for taking your time today and being with us. We appreciate what you're doing there, Chai. We appreciate what your efforts as well. We just wish everybody in India well as they engage in this venture. And we'll be looking. Maybe I'll catch you this year, Divya. Who knows?
Absolutely. I'm going to work on that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you,
Thank
Lee.
you so much, Lee. This was really nice of you to have us here. Thank you.
Well, thanks again, Divya, for telling us what's going on there in India. We wish you well on your undertaking. You seem to be very, very busy, and we appreciate what you do for the growth of ultracycling in that nation. Takes somebody like you to make it happen, and you're certainly making it happen, and we'll appreciate that. The next show will also be coming to you from India, but we want to thank you for watching the show and for supporting the OhioRAAM show. Remember that all the shows in the past are archived on the OhioRAAMshow.com website. There you will find information about the show, as well as a place that if you leave your email address, you'll get notifications when future shows are released. The OhioRAAM show is released on the 7th, the 17th, and 27th of each month. There's some exceptions if something special happens, and particularly during the Race Across America, we will have some extra shows. Thank you again for your shares on the social media. That really helps make the show better known, which serves the objective of making ultracycling better known. Thank you for your likes and all the support we get. For that, we're going to say goodbye.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.